You're listening to the Spaceship Earth podcast with me, Dan Burgess. This is coming live from the woods. Actually, way back in last year, back in spring, when I was experimenting a bit with this podcast, I did a episode from the woods called Into the Woods. Into the Woods Part 1. So this is Into the Woods Part 2. So this is an episode which is just me doing a spontaneous brain empathy session. Been doing quite a few conversations with folks in the last few episodes, which have been great, and lots more of those to come. But yeah, sort of feeling the need also just to experiment a little bit with some shorter reflective pieces from my own mind. So yeah, I'm sitting in the woods. It's a Friday morning. I'm out with my dog, Jem, who's around somewhere, so she might come rustling in at some point. Anyway, what did I want to talk about this morning? It's the first, or is it the second week of January, and there's at least it's the first sort of week that I've been sort of opening myself back up to the world for a couple of weeks. I was in London for a couple of days, had sort of all my channels kind of on this week, and I was still really actually noticing how intense that can be, actually, just sort of turning everything on immediately. Different channels of communication, different stimulus, and how quickly I started to feel that I could get myself into a place of not overwhelmedness, but I could just sense how quickly I could get distracted, and how that distraction can turn to maybe slight anxiety. And I also noticed, obviously, bumping into people and connecting with people again, and just I would say that kind of January vibe. Seems like lots of people are attempting to, not drink any alcohol for January. Heard that quite a bit, and a lot of people talking about fitness and all that stuff, I guess, which is what a lot of us look to the new year to do, to sort of clean ourselves out, and I can sense quite a lot of some edginess, actually, with all of that going on, and people back into their work, and if they have kids with schools and all that stuff, and it made me think about my own journeys and experiments of self-experimentation, particularly around my own health and well-being, and it brought me back to the woods again, which I think is what I wanted to talk about briefly. Here is the potential in boosting your own personal well-being by taking some time out, as much as you can. Every day is amazing, but even a couple of times a week, just to sit outside, to be outside, and if you can, to be somewhere that is more wild than human, and that's not always easy. I mean, you can hear I'm sitting here in an amazing ancient woodland, right on the edge of Bath. But even that, I don't know if you can hear. There's kind of some kind of like mechanical saws going on over there, and there's cars behind me on the road. But that's fine. That's the world we live in. But even if you live in a busy city, maybe it's about if you have access to a garden or a park, but just somewhere where there is non-human life, be that plant life, bird life, animal life, But there's a chance to maybe not be too interrupted by the human machine. And to find a spot that speaks to you, a spot that actually you're drawn to. And to visit that spot and to sit. And to turn off your phone, turn off all your stuff, and just sit still. And maybe take a few deep breaths in and out just to kind of ground yourself. And just sit and just try and open up your senses. Try and break through the chatter in your mind and the sounds around you, cars and traffic and sirens and planes and building. And then just start to notice what you see when you really look, and what you hear when you start to peel back those noises around you, and what you feel, what you smell, and other sensations maybe that may be slightly harder to describe. And what you'll find is that you will start to notice all kinds of things, and you'll start to see other life, and you'll start to make connections and see patterns, but you'll also start to feel a grounding and a sense of aliveness, because you might actually experience different emotions. But whatever it is, try and do it. Try it for 10 minutes if you can, and then if you can, do it again quite soon, maybe the next day or a couple of days later, and then try, if you can, to go back to the same spot and sit again. The other thing, if you find a spot that you revisit, so it becomes a regular sit spot, is that you will start to notice the shift and change as of the natural world as we move through cycles and seasons. And that in itself is a really interesting thing to experience, to see how a little piece of the world around you is shifting and changing all the time, and all the interactions and relationships that are happening, that are part of that, that are existing within that little piece of this great big spaceship Earth that's hurtling through space, this life-giving rock flying through the universe. Bonkers. So try and find somewhere that you revisit. It doesn't matter if you don't, but it's an interesting experiment to have a spot which becomes the spot that your sit spot. And if you can build a practice around that, because that's really what I think a lot of our goals and our resolutions, they really, at least in my experience, tend to fall apart when the practice stops. And actually it's the practice that's where it all happens. And practice doesn't have to be huge. It can just be 10 minutes. But what I've found from taking that time out and sitting is just all kinds of things. That's Jen, my dog. She's just, I don't know what she's doing. She seems to be eating a piece of ash, as you do. Maybe you could do that, nibble on a bit of ash during your sit spot. But yeah, that practice it seems super simple, and it is, right? It's probably the most simplest thing you can do, is to sort of go outside and sit quietly and not have a phone on and not talk to anyone and just be still. That in itself is potentially a fairly revolutionary thing to be doing right now. But it's a simple thing to do, and at least what I've seen, and others I know who practice this Sitspot, it can have extraordinary impacts on you in a number of ways. It can definitely boost how you feel. And I think particularly in a month like January, where many of us are pushing ourselves to sort of give this up and start this and don't touch that, and we put a huge amount of pressure on ourselves to make some breakthroughs. And the Sitspot, I believe, is a tool that will be really useful, can be really useful in amongst all these other challenges we're pushing on ourselves in January. And it can help with all that. It can help with all the temptations and the urges and the cravings by taking a little bit of time outside, a little bit of time to connect, a little bit of time to notice all this other life going on, a little bit of time to sense our own connection to it. That can be a really, really powerful tool. So technically known as the Sitspot, I was introduced to this amazing technique by a brilliant human called Chris Salisbury, who runs a really great organisation down in South Devon called Wildwise, and you can check them out. And I did a year part-time course with Chris called Call of the Wild, which was all about kind of outdoor learning and nature reconnection and exploring our place in the natural world. And one of the techniques Chris introduced us to very early was the Sitspot. And yeah, like I say, you don't have to be in an ancient wood. You can be anywhere outside. But if you can, find a spot, as I say, that you're drawn to. Find a spot that sort of is, in some way, speaks to you. Make it quite easy for you to get to. So it's a spot, maybe it's near your work, or it's near your home, or it is wherever it is that you can get to quite simply, not too long. And try it. Set yourself, try and do it. Maybe try and do it a few days on the trot, or every other day for 10 days, 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes each time, and then maybe you can gradually increase it. And yeah, the Sitspot. So I'm going to do my Sitspot now, but I wanted to share that as a little Friday share. So it's very simple. I think what I also like about the Sitspot, it's not an app. You don't need to buy it. You don't need to subscribe to it. You don't need to buy anything to do it. You just do it. And that's it. That's a lovely thing in today's world. So yeah, I would love it. Can you imagine? It'd just be so interesting to see like people starting to sort of practice Sitspots in all the kind of places that maybe it's at least sort of more unexpected, sitting along the rivers of cities and parks, and just people taking that time out, but an intentional time out. And you'll usually, if you go somewhere a little bit more wild, so there is a bit of woodland, or there is a bit of river, or there's some hedgerow, or there's some, there is some ecosystem where you're possibly more likely to encounter some visible non-human life. You'll be surprised by how much will pop up, and you'll see things and be visited, no doubt, by other wonderful life forms. Some of them, visible and tangible, and others more experiential, things that maybe you will feel. Will start to feel other signs of life. Yeah, this stuff is good. This is good shit, the Sitspot. So yeah, on that note, I think I'll probably leave it there. But yeah, it's the month of resolutions and goals and stuff. So get outside, take a Sitspot, and I'll put a few little links maybe into the show notes of anything that might be useful that just gives you a bit more background on the Sitspot. But I'd love to know how you get on. So ping me or message me or reach out if you want to chat about any of this stuff. But it'd be great to hear if anyone starts practicing the Sitspot and how you get on with it all. There's actually, it's making me think of a fun thing you can do. This is kind of when I need video really. Maybe I can explain it and take a picture of myself to put on the post. But it's a thing, if you really want to sort of play with things like sound, so there's a little trick I was taught actually by Chris. It's called deer ears. So if you sort of put your hand up and you cup your ear, so you hold your hand behind your ear and do that with both hands. So both hands behind each your ears, like so they look like deer ears. You point them together and you hold them, and you'll notice if you put them right behind your ear and then you pull them away and you put them behind your ear, you'll notice that your hearing, your ability to hear across much longer distances when you have your hands cupped behind your ear, exactly like a deer's ear. So you can start to experience another sort of sensory layer, if you like, by adding on this. And this is not an in-app purchase. You can do this for free. You literally just put your hands behind your ears, cup them, and then you'll be able to sort of move them around like a deer does, and you'll notice that you can pick up a much greater distance. You're able to hear across a much greater distance. You turn them around and cup the other way, you'll be able to hear behind you. These are useful things. But no, honestly, just as an experience in how we can shift and adapt our ability to increase our sensory capacity is, I think, quite extraordinary. So that's the deer ears little hack, and again, I'll make a note of that in the show notes. Anyway, I hope you're having a good January, whatever you're trying to stop and start. Wishing you good vibes with all of that. My own experience is that I'm learning every year is it's just all about the practice. It's all about what you do on a day-to-day basis, and it's all about not biting off too much. Little daily things that you do can have enormous differences over time. Someone, I can't remember who I was listening to, but they talked about this idea of quite often when we try and stop things or start things, so stop bad habits or create new habits, we tend to look always in our minds. We sort of tend to envision the finishing line of, when I stop this, I'll become this, or when I start doing this practice or sport or exercise, I'll become this, and we get sort of lost on this kind of big expectation of what I might become. But actually, it's very much like start on the start and just start with what you can do on a day-to-day basis. A few minutes here, a few minutes there, is really a good way to go. So good luck, blessings to you all, good vibes. More interview conversations on the Spaceship Earth coming next week and onwards. Lots actually lined up. I'm going to be pushing a new site live as well for the Spaceship. It will be the Spaceship.Earth. That's hopefully in the next few days. So until next time, get outside and peace and out.